So welcome to this webinar. My name is Mike and I'll be taking you through CareRight. This is CareRight. CareRight is a browser-based system, so all you need to access it is a web browser, and we support all the latest versions of Chrome, Firefox, Internet Explorer, Edge. You can also use Safari as well if you're a Mac user and you want to use that. Because you're using a web browser to access the system, it means that you can run it on any device. So you can run it on your tablet, your iPad, your smartphone, or of course your desktop machine. It also means you can run it on the latest operating systems, so whether that be Windows or Mac. CareRight can be hosted locally, in that you can host it on your own server and you can manage your own hardware infrastructure. Alternatively, you can have it hosted off-site or in the cloud. We can provide a cloud solution if that's something that you're interested in. And I should say as well that even if you host the system on your own network, you can make it so it is accessible to those outside of your network. So people can still access it remotely using the internet. So I'm logged in as a admin user, so I've got access rights to do anything in the system, and I can also see all of the different parts of the system, all of the different modules down the left hand side of the screen. I've also got access to all of the different patients in the system. Now you can set up different groups, and these groups will have privileges. So for example, you might set up a system administrator group, and that user will have privileges to do anything in the system. You might also set up a different group. It could be a doctor group or a nurses group, and you might give them slightly different privileges based on which parts of the system they need to access. So each user is a member of one or more groups, and they inherit the access privileges of that group. That dictates what they can and can't do in the system, and also which patients they can and can't see in the system. So if you have multiple locations, the system supports that, and if you want to set up each user's each location to be able to access just the patients at that location, then that's something you can do. If you don't want to be as restrictive as that and have someone access all the patients in the system, you can also do that. CareRight is a patient-centric system. So what we're going to do now, we'll search for our patient, and here's one we prepared earlier. This is our simple search, so I've just searched for first name and surname. I could also put in here date of birth, Medicare number, mobile number, phone number, email address. Any of those items I could do a search for, and it would restrict the results based on the information that I'm putting in. So we'll just hit enter. Okay, so that's brought us back our patient here, Mr. Caleb Gray. You'll notice now we've got the option to create a new patient. We don't get that option until we've done a search. So this is to prevent any duplicate patients being entered. We also have an advanced search here as well. The advanced search screen allows you to search with more detail. So if we look down here, you can search using various patient identifiers and patient detail. You can also do things like search between certain ages, so bring back any patients between certain age, for example. Or you can also search on any admissions that you've got in the system if you're using our admission system, or any diagnosis that have been entered, or anywhere where a staff member or a user of the system has had contact with that particular patient. So we'll close that screen for now. You will notice that I can open up screens in new tabs. That's the benefit of having using a web application. You're able to open up as many tabs as you want. So if we wanted to open up his record in a new tab, we can just do that quite simply by doing that. Not quite ready to go there yet though, so I'll close that for now. What we're going to do, we're going to add Caleb to our My Patients list. So if we click on there, that adds into our My Patients list. If we go back to our patient page, we can now see that he is on our My Patient list here. So your My Patient list is a frequently accessed patient list. Adding someone to your My Patients list is optional. Okay, so we'll click into a patient record now. So we're going to go into Caleb Gray's record. So you'll notice that now we've gone into his record, the screen has changed. So we have this banner at the top of the screen up here, and in the banner we have some information relating to Caleb. So we've got the facility he's assigned to, or the location he's assigned to, the MRN, medical record number, his gender and age and date of birth, and also that he was last admitted to East St Kilda. So if he was currently admitted, then that would show up that he was currently admitted. Just a quick note, the medical record number, this is allocated to a new patient when they're created in the system automatically. We do also have a secondary number called a CRN, a customer record number. You can also have that show on the patient record, and you can put your own reference number in there, or that can be auto-generated as well if required. If we have a look here, we're on the summary page at the moment, so we'll just scroll down and I'll just take you through this briefly. So we've got down here all the identity information for Caleb. We've also got some custom fields on here, so you can have as many custom fields as you want on the patient record, and these can appear under the different sections here. So we've also got a demographics section here. If we keep scrolling down, government benefit information, so that's where you store your Medicare information, your pension detail, DVA information, health fund section there, and we've also got an area for contact details. So the system has a full two-way SMS system built in. The way this works, you can set it up so all of your appointments are linked to SMS messages, and these can go out as reminders. This can be 2 days before the appointment's due or a week before the appointment's due, and you can set up as many of these reminders as you want against an appointment type. So it just depends on how far in advance you're booking your appointments as to when you want these to send out. The system also has smarts in there that when the appointment reminders are sent out, it can check if the person's already confirmed that they are going to be attending the appointment. If they've already confirmed, you can have it so the appointment SMS doesn't send out. So the appointment system has the smarts built in to recognize when Caleb actually replies to an SMS message. If he replies with a Y or a yes, then you can have the system automatically update the appointment book for you to say that he's confirmed and he will be coming to the appointment. We also have automated emails as well, and you can set these against an appointment, and they can go out with attachments, and also they can go out with a calendar invite. So this would go into Caleb's Gmail, Outlook, or iCal calendar system. It's a universal calendar invite that goes into any of the standard calendar systems that are out there, and then that appointment will go into his calendar. You can obviously store address details against Caleb, and we have an address book down here as well. So this is where you would store any next of kin that you have registered for Caleb. If we scroll back up here to the top of the page, you notice we've got an OPV button up here. An OPV is an online patient verification. So this communicates with Medicare, and we have full Medicare online claiming built into the system. So this OPV communicates with Medicare. It will check whether or not the details that you hold for him in CareRight are a match to what Medicare holds. We also have the ability to print patient labels here. So if we click print, that will generate patient labels for us. So there are the patient labels. These can be customized to suit your business. So at the moment we've got the name, MRN, date of birth, age, gender, admission date, location that they're admitted to currently, and the admitting doctor. So all that information can be configured based on what you need, and that will print to standard Avery labels. We also have up here a patient search box. So this will search across Caleb's record. It will search his clinical notes and his letters. So for example, if we type refer in there, it will search for any referral letters that we have in the system. So there we go, we've got a letter, and then you can click through and you can see that letter. So we're back on the summary page now for Caleb. One last thing on this page: if you're collecting statutory reporting information and having to submit that to the government bodies or state bodies, then this is where you collect part of that information. So if we click edit and we scroll down, you'll notice that some of these fields are statutory reporting fields. For example, state of birth, country of birth, indigenous status, etc. Now, each of these fields are drop-down fields, and the way this works, these drop-down options are restricted to what the particular state or government body that you're reporting to requires as valid options. So all of these options are preset in the system based on configuration that you do. So you say what statutory reporting bodies you need to submit data to, and the system then automatically narrows down the list of available options in these fields based on what the body you're sending through to will accept. Now you can collect this information and input it directly into this summary screen, or you can use our intelligent form system to collect that information. So we're going to focus more on the administrative process that you would follow through with CareLib. So next we're going to book CareLib an appointment, and we'll go through to the appointment book. We can select a location from here or a provider if we want, and that would take us through to that provider's calendar. If we weren't sure which provider we needed to book under, we can choose a calendar view. So the way the appointment book works, we have a number of calendar views set up, and you can configure those calendar views and have as many calendar views as you want. Each calendar view has one or more providers as members of that view. So you can just see here we've got our providers going across the top of the screen. And a provider can be a person, it could also be a bed. For example, here we've got a dialysis bed set up, or it can be a room or a theatre, a location. And if we look down the screen now, we can see the availability for each of the providers. Anywhere that is a coloured block you can book into, so that indicates that the provider is available to book an appointment. Anywhere that's grey, there are no sessions, we call them sessions, defined. So you cannot book into those sections. So this appointment calendar is obviously quite empty. If you needed to, you could actually use the Find Next Available feature to book in an appointment. So we'll click onto that, and we'll say we're looking for a consult appointment type. If we leave the start date as today, then by default it'll start searching from today. We'll say actually that the person that CareLib's only free from next Tuesday, next Monday. There we go. Okay, so we'll do a search. That then brings back any available sessions, any slots that we can book into. So we can then check with CareLib when he's free, and we can book that in. So let's book in with Dr. Jones at 2 p.m. Okay, so the appointment type has been brought through, so have the patient details. And if we select the appointment type, we could change it if we wanted to, and by changing it, we'll actually change the default duration of that appointment type. So you can see that changing. Now again, you set up any appointment types that you need in the system. You can configure those up, and you give them all a default length, a default duration, but that can be overwritten. So if we wanted to make it 45 minutes, for example, we could. We could also put some notes in there, so we could say that CareLib is nervous, and we'll create that appointment. So that's booked that appointment. It takes us to a summary screen to show us the appointment information. If we scroll down as well, in this screen it also tells us which appointment reminders are going to be sent out to CareLib. So for example, there's an appointment reminder going out 2 days before the appointment's due. It will go out at 12 noon, 2 days prior to the appointment, when the appointment is in an unconfirmed condition only. So this means that if CareLib at any point before then confirms the appointment with you over the phone, then the appointment reminder will not send. So it's just a way of saving you having to send out a message if they confirm. That is optional, so you could have it send out a message regardless of whether or not they've confirmed. Okay, so we'll go back to the appointment book. Okay, so I've gone back to the appointment book, and what I'll do is book CareLib in for some kind of procedure, and then we'll follow that process through from admission to discharge to billing. So we'll go forward to a date in the future. We'll book him in, let's say book him in at 10 AM. We're creating that appointment. So again, this session has restricted appointment types that you can book into it. You can see here. So you can set up each session so only certain appointments can be booked into it. Okay, we'll override that time and we'll create that appointment. Okay, so we've created that appointment for Caleb. Now we'll flash forward to the day that Caleb is actually coming for the appointment, and we'll go through the process that you could follow on that day. So first of all, let's say he turns up for, if we wanted to see that appointment on the calendar and how it looks, just scroll down and we can see it's in there, booked in there. Now the appointment book is drag and drop, so if Caleb said actually I can't make that appointment, I actually need to come in an hour later, we can move that and we can rebook it. You can also double book as well, so if you wanted to book in another appointment next to this, you could. So Caleb now has his appointment booked in. We can now just go back to his record, and at any time if we go into the list of appointments, we can see any appointments that we've booked for him. So this one is the one we moved, so that's been marked as cancelled, and this is the current appointment that's coming up. Okay, so I've gone back to the appointment book, and what I'll do is book Caleb in for some kind of procedure, and then we'll follow that process through from admission to discharge to billing. So we'll go forward to a date in the future. We'll book him in, let's say book him in at 10 AM. We're creating that appointment. You can see here. So you can set up each session so only certain appointments can be booked into it. Okay, we'll override that time and we'll create that appointment. Okay, so we've created that appointment for Caleb. So now we'll go forward to the day of the appointment and go through the process that you could follow then. So first of all, let's collect some extra information from Caleb using our intelligent form system. So I've created a form here. Now this form has been configured for the purposes of a demonstration. You can have anything that you want inside this form, so you can collect any information that's relevant to you inside this form. So if we go down, we can see it pulls in the first name, last name, date of birth. So it's pulling information from Caleb's record, but it can also write information to his record as well. So contact details, that's all being pulled from the patient record. Equally, if on the day he told you actually it was a different number, you could make a change in here. His address details, again, we've already got these as part of the patient record. If they weren't, then you could populate these through this form. So we've got an area here for comments, and again you can configure this form to have whatever information you want in there. If you wanted to collect any of the statutory reporting information at this point, you could, and at the end of this form we've just got a tick there to say the intake's been completed. Okay. Alright, now remember this is a form that's been configured just for this demo, so you could have anything that you want. So I've approved that form. Now at this point we could actually have the system open up another form if you wanted to. Say for example you needed to upload some consent documents or something like that, then you could actually have the system automatically open up that next form. In this case we won't, but that is possible using the workflow system. In this case we'll keep it fairly simple. We're now going to go down and admit Caleb into the system. And we're going to admit him. So it defaults to the today's date. We said we're doing this in the future, so we'll jump forward to the 16th, and it defaults to the time, the current time. So we'll say 10 AM. So we'll select the location that he's being admitted to. So in CareRight we have the concept of admission categories. Now an admission contains all the information that's required for you to do your statutory reporting and most of the information that you need to then go on and submit your in-hospital claims. Using admission categories you can default a lot of the information that you need to collect as part of the admission. So for example, if 90% of the fields that you're collecting as part of your admission process are always the same, you can set defaults for those, and based on this admission category you can have the system automatically apply those defaults for you. So we'll just add in a reason. Now the admission type has defaulted based on the admission category we selected. Planned date of discharge defaults to the same day, and in this case, because we're doing this in the future, we'll set that to the 16th of the 9th. But if this is a same day admission, so in your case when you go to use the system, the admission date would be today and the planned date of discharge would be today as well. Discharge intention on admission has been defaulted based on the day surgery admission category. Okay, so patient was successfully admitted. So if we scroll down the page, you can see we didn't go in and set these fields. The system set those for us automatically when we selected that admission category. If we scroll down, again, a lot of the fields have been set to a default value, so we don't have to go through and enter that. So this takes a lot of the pain out of doing your statutory reporting. Like I said before, if 90% of the fields that you're filling in every time for your stat reporting can be defaulted, then you can set the system up to do that. So okay, so we'll imagine that Caleb has gone through, he's been admitted, and we've delivered care to him, we've performed a procedure on him. We're not going to go through the clinical side of things now. I'm just going to show you the discharge process and then the billing process. So at this point we can go through and we can discharge Caleb. There are some fields we have to fill in as part of this discharge. We didn't show you earlier, but the diagnosis for Caleb has actually been pulled through from the medical record, so you don't have to fill that in. And we'll just fill in some of the fields that we have to. Okay. Alright, and at this point we're ready to discharge him. Okay, so you can just see there that it's thrown up an error, and that was I did that on purpose so you can see the error checking in the system. The discharge date is before the admission date, so we'll go through and we'll set that discharge date now. Excellent. So Caleb has now been successfully discharged. So at this point, if you needed to make any edits to the admission, you can do those now, or any point up to when you submit your statutory reporting, or for when you do your claim. So if we needed to make any edits to the admission, if we click edit, and you can just see all of the different fields in there. These are all fields that are going to be sent off to the statutory reporting bodies or used as part of the claim. And you just notice right at the end we've got this section here, patient details and discharge. These have all been copied in from that patient summary page. So if we look down the page here, for example, country of birth and indigenous status, we saw those earlier on the patient summary page. So the goal of the system is you only enter information once, you don't have to re-enter it, so it reduces that double entry of information. So now we're ready to create our claim, which is going to go off electronically to the health fund. Okay, so we'll select the account we wish to raise the claim against. Okay. At this point we can select the items that we're going to bill for. So we're going to bill for an accommodation charge, Okay, and if we look here, it tells us what the gap is that Caleb needs to pay. We'll create that invoice. At this point we can get Caleb to pay, and we can mark that off in the system that he's paid the gap. So we'll say he's paid in cash, and we'll create that receipt. Okay, so we're now ready to submit that. So as you can see, I'm not having to change much information in here. So this is the claim screen. This information has been built out automatically from Caleb's admission record and also his summary details as well. So what we do here, I'll click prepare. That will tell me if there are any fields that need to be filled in. So this field is required, source of referral. A DRG code is also required, along with the principal ICD diagnosis code. So that claim is now ready to be sent off to the health fund. So we're back now on Caleb's summary page, and we're going to go through the clinical modules of the system. First of all, we're going to look at alerts, allergies and notices. So I'll click on alert up here. Caleb's banner is currently red. That is because there are alerts or allergies attached to his record, and by clicking on the badge here it takes us to the alerts section. We can also see here there are a number of alerts and allergies that have come out from behind this badge and are displayed in the banner at the top of the screen, and this is a configurable option for you. You can set up your alerts to just be hidden behind this badge. So for example, we have a prone to fainting alert. Now that doesn't appear in the banner because it hasn't been configured to, whereas the blood thinner alert does appear in the banner. You can set up your own list of alerts. Here are some we've just set up for demo purposes. And you can also set up your own list of allergies as well. So you can see there's a list there. So next we'll look at notices. Notices are non-medical alerts. So these could be that you need to call the person a taxi after their procedure, or perhaps an interpreter is required. So if you add a notice to the system. Next we've got an area for medications. I won't go into too much detail on this area because we don't have the demo system configured to talk to MIMS, but we do communicate with MIMS, and you're able to create scripts in the system and also check any contraindications that might be present on the drug that you're currently prescribing. We also have an area for diagnosis and problems. So under this area here we've got formal diagnosis, and we've also got any working diagnosis as well that you might want to add. You can load in your own list of codes for the diagnoses, or you can add in your you can select ICD-10 codes as your diagnosis list, and you can load the whole ICD-10 code set, or you can load in a subset of that. Now because this is part of the formal medical record, once you've entered a diagnosis into the system, you can't delete the information out. If you make a mistake you would strike it out instead. And we also have an area here for problems, so you can add any health issues that might come as a result of the diagnosis, and again you can manage that list, and then you just select from your list when you're adding in a problem. Okay, next we're going to look at measurements. So you can record any type of measurement in the system. We've set up a few here, so we've got blood pressure, height, Oxford knee score, which is an orthopedic score, and we've also got pulse, respiration, temperature and weight. So if we have a look at blood pressure as an example, we can enter a blood pressure reading here. And then if we look up on the page, you'll see that the information is automatically graphed. So you can set up as many different types of measurement as you want. You're not set to what we add to the system. You can add as many of your own as you'd like to. You can also record any clinical notes in the system. So I'll open up a different patient's record and just show you an example of how the clinical notes look. So these ones have been added over time. If we look down, we've got a referral letter here. It's been added into clinical notes, so you can attach documents to clinical notes. There we go. You can just see that example letter there. You can also use the clinical note system to load in templates or blocks of text that are frequently used, and I'll show you how you do that in a moment. They can be just used to store free text notes as well. Information from the intelligent form system can also populate clinical notes, and you get a record each time you add an assessment, a form, to the patient's record. That will be entered as a record in the clinical notes, so you can just click on that and then you go through and see the form. You can also add pictures as well, so if you're interested in doing any kind of wound care or before and after pictures, you can add those into clinical notes section. And if we keep looking down, there's just an example template there. So if I click into new clinical note, you can just write a free text note here. Alternatively, like I said before, we can insert an image, and if you're on an iPad or an iPhone, you're able to pick up the image from the camera. So when you click here on an iPad or an iPhone, you'll be prompted, do you want to take a photo or would you like to upload a photo? So we can upload one from our desktop otherwise here. Templates, so like I said before, you can load in the system chunks of text, blocks of text, and then you can load those in to your clinical notes. And also documents as well, so we can attach documents. So I won't save this note, I'll cancel that. One more thing, clinical notes are version controlled as well, so you can go in, if you went into a note that was previously added because there was a mistake in there, we made a change and we update it, that changes the version number of the note. So again, in the system there's this full longitudinal record of patient care. In lots of areas you cannot delete information out, so you can't delete information out. It stays with the patient, it stays in their record and provides that full longitudinal record of care. So if we look at versions here, we see this is the current version. If we go back to the previous version, then the text that was deleted is in there, and it also records who entered the previous version and also who made the change to the new version. Okay. You can also apply filters to clinical notes, so if you just want to see your own notes, you can apply a filter there. If you just want to see a certain discipline's notes, i.e. a type of user, so you might want to see just admin notes, or you might just want to see medical notes, you can do that as well. And you can also apply a filter on a date range as well. Okay, so I'll close his record. We'll go back over to Caleb now. So now I want to show you an example of a consultation record that we've built for doctors who use the system. So this is found in our intelligent form system, and I've already added this to the record, so we'll continue on with the consultation record. So if you imagine the intelligent form system, it sits on top of the rest of the patient record, so you can go into each of these different tabs and you can enter information directly into a tab, or you can configure your own screens, so configure your own forms, your own screens, with fields that you want to have on there, and also for them to pull information from the patient record and also write to these different areas of the record. So this is an example form that we've built. You can configure it any way you like. So first of all, we select the type of consultation. So imagine that a doctor might be performing a consult on a patient. Have an initial consultation or a follow-up. You can have it so that the information in the form displays based on the type of consult that you select. Here we have some measurements, so these will write directly to the measurement system, and it's pulling in the last measurement that we put into the system. And once this form's approved, this information will be stored in the clinical record and it will be graphed under measurements. We've got an area for history here. Now, I've previously performed a version of this form. You're able to share information across different forms. Because this is a follow-up form, it's pulling in information from a different form. So that's been transferred across. We've also got an area here, and you can have this write out to clinical notes. So any part of this form can be copied out to clinical notes on approval. If we keep going down, so earlier on I showed you how to enter diagnosis into the system, how to add a diagnosis into the system. Here you can actually enter it through the form itself, so you don't have to come out of the form to enter the diagnosis. You can add it from here, and that updates the clinical record for the patient straight away. Same with problems as well, so you can add these through the form. Allergies as well, we looked at allergies and alerts earlier on today. These can be added through the form as well, and you're able to upload photos, and by clicking on certain fields in the form you can hide and display extra information. We have in this form a diagram here, a nice diagram of the body. In this particular version you would write notes against this, so we'd add some notes in referencing the different parts of the body. However, in the next version we have coming, you're going to be able to upload a photo and then to scribble onto that. So a scribble pad is coming. Here we've got an area for the doctor to write some notes to be passed back to the front desk, so they know what to bill. So we've just got in here 104 no gap, and if an appointment, a recall is required, or some kind of follow-up is required, we can also put that information into the form, and that will be passed back to the people on the front desk and written into clinical notes. So look, we'll approve this form. So if we go over to clinical notes, we'll see that information from this form has copied into clinical notes. We've got a note there, 104 no gap. So someone on the front desk can come in and they can check this. Alternatively, an intelligent form can create a task on someone's list. So it can create up here a task for someone to action. So the other alternative would be that you have some kind of billing task or billing note passed through to the person who's on the front desk. So you've got various options as to how you use the forms. You can also do things like calculations in forms, and effectively you can use the intelligent form system to mirror all of your paper-based forms as they are now, and it just allows you to enter information directly into the various parts of the clinical record. So next we'll look at correspondence. So you're able to create letters to send out to patients and also to their referring practitioners. These can be printed and sent, or they can be sent via a secure method such as Argus or medical objects. So if we scroll down here, I'll show you an example of a patient letter. Okay, so you can choose which address. If there are multiple addresses, you could choose one of those. So we've set up templates in the system. So this is a recall template. That has all been pre-populated based on the template we selected just now when we click through. And it pulls in information from the clinical record. So this one's a fairly simple letter. It pulls in the name of the patient and also the location. and also the date up here. It just says pulled in the date. Now this is free text now. If we wanted to, we could type into here, or we could make changes to this letter, and we could add, if we had templates set up in here, we could go in and we could add chunks of text, bodies of text. Okay, so when we've written our letter, we can either mark it to be sent. So if a doctor was writing the letter, and then someone else's responsibility, it was someone else's job to send out the letters as a batch, you could mark this as sent, and it would be added to a list of letters to be printed and sent, or sent via Argus or medical objects. In this case, we're going to just print the letter. Okay, so you can see here that the letter has previewed on the screen. It's got our logo on it, so you can have your own branding on the letter. This also prints for windowed envelopes, and you can see there we've got the patient's name and address. And at this point we can print that out, so we can send that to the printer, or we can download it as a PDF. And at that point we can mark it that it's been sent as well, or we can mark it that it's been sent later on. Depends on your workflow. Okay, so we'll go back in. Like I said before, you can also create referral letters as well. And in this case, we've got two recipients of the referral letter. We've got an original recipient, and we've got a carbon copy recipient. And if we scroll down, again, this is loaded in from a template that we've set up. And you would be able to set up all of your own templates in the system. It's straightforward to load those in. So here we can see it's pulled in the patient name again, it's pulled in his address as well, and also it's pulled in the recipient's name. So in this case it will be Brenda Reed. This is going to generate two letters. So what we'll do, we'll print this. Okay, they've both been added to the outbox because there are multiple recipients there. So it doesn't give you that preview, it just adds them straight to the outbox. So here we can see we have a letter to Dr. Brenda Reed and one to Felicity Brown. We can then go in and we can print these letters. Alternatively, we can send this via Argus. So this is obviously the patient view of letters. You can also view this at a global level or at a user level. So a doctor can go in and they can view any letters that they've written. Okay, also in the correspondence section we have the ability to send SMS templates. These SMS templates, again, you would set these up in the back end of the system, and you can have these pull in patient information, so we can mark when we want that to be sent. So we'll send that. You can also send custom SMS messages, so these are free text SMS messages. Now with the permissions are quite granular on SMS, so if you didn't want everyone in your organization to be able to send a custom SMS message, then you can set that permission so that only certain groups of users can send out these. You can also create your own email templates to be sent out. So these might be directions, for example, to the center, and you can have attachments on these emails as well. Now if the patient replies to any SMS messages that you send out to them, they will actually come into this inbox here, and they'll also come into a global inbox. So next we'll look at how you store documents against a patient. So when you set up CareRight, we'll also install a program that sits on the server, and this program will allow you to upload scanned documents into a folder. The program will poll that folder, so it will check that folder at regular intervals, and it will download any documents into the system automatically. These documents can then be matched up to a patient record. In this case, this document has been matched up to a patient record, Mr. Caleb Gray. And if we click show, we can go in and we can see that document. Now in this case, just an example document here. PDF documents and also JPEG documents will preview on the screen. At this point, you can mark whether or not some kind of follow-up is required for this document, or whether you viewing it is enough and no more action is required. So we can just mark that as complete if no more action is required, and that moves it out of the reported tab and into the complete tab. You do also have the option of loading a document into the system manually. So if we click on New, we can select the document type, and these are configurable. You would set up different document types. And that will load that document into the system for us. And that, as that's a PDF, we get a nice preview. You're not restricted to just loading in PDF documents and images. You can load any kind of document, any kind of file, whether it could be a video file, it could be a sound file, it can be any kind of file, a Word document. Obviously it depends on the type of document as to whether it will preview on the screen, but you can store those documents and then later download them. So next I'll show you pathology and radiology, and we'll go into a different tab to do this. So we've come out of the patient record and we're now at a doctor's screen. You can see here that the doctor is able to see all of the pathology requests that they've created and also any results that have come in. So I won't go through the process of creating a request now, but I'll just show you what that looks like. So we're going to this request. We've specified in the request what kind of test we want. Any history and problems can be added into this, and we can set a due date as well for that request for some kind of follow-up action to happen. And we can print this request here. So if this request needed to be reprinted at any point, it can be. Now you load in all of the backgrounds for the different pathology or radiology providers, and you're able to have the patient information printed onto that background. So this is a radiology background, but it could be any background at all, and then you can just print that out and give that to the patient. Okay, so if we go back a screen, we can look at any of our pathology results that have come in. So here we can have a look at the result. If there are any abnormal readings in the result, they'd show up as red automatically, and the doctor can quickly go through here and they can mark this as normal, abnormal, follow-up or complete, and then they can move on to the next pathology result that they need to work on. So just so you know the mechanics behind this, again, like with the documents, we have a program that sits on your server, and this will check specific folders on the server that you set up for these results. So the pathology and radiology providers will send their results to you. They will go into a specific folder, and our system will pick up those results and it will download those automatically into the system, and where it can, it will match them to a provider, a doctor, and also to a patient. So now we'll have a brief look at reporting. CareRight has a sophisticated report engine, and it can report on all of the tables in the system. We've set up a number of different template reports, so you can just see them all listed down here. I'll show you the daily activity report as one example. So this is our report generator. You can see here we've got all of the different fields that are going to be included in this particular report, and you can tick as to whether or not you actually want them included or not in the report. We then can do things like shuffle them around if we want to change the order. We can also apply group by, we can also apply sort order in there, and you can do things like count and sum to that. We've got an area for filters here, so we can apply various different filters, and then we can go through and we can output it to HTML, so to the screen, PDF, Excel, rich text, or CSV. unformatted Excel document. So we'll run this report, and you can see there we've just got the results up on the screen because we asked for it in HTML. So we have a number of pre-built reports. You can also configure your own reports. So any assessment that you perform in the system, you can report on that. So that brings us to the end of this webinar. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. We've been through a high-level overview of all the key parts of the software. And if you'd like to see anything in more detail, please get in touch, and we'll be more than happy to arrange an additional demonstration for you. Thanks a lot.